listening to Not So Live from Asteroid G. We swear, not coming to you from a bungled multiverse. I'm your host, Mike Finkelstein.
I'm your buddy Mike, who's going to just reboot this again for the third time. Give me a second here.
I thought we established in the last podcast you were the crypt keeper. Ghoul Mike.
Ghoul Mike, yeah.
I'm not letting that joke die. I'm just saying that was too good.
I can roll with that.
This week we are discussing the DC multiverse cinematic bungling botch job that they've done, which, oh my god, this year has been absolutely atrocious. Not that anything that's come out in the last 4 years hasn't been atrocious for them, but like,
right.
there's not a bright spot for Warner Brothers this whole fucking time. So, yeah. I know you have thoughts. We're gonna get to your thoughts in a sec. But
I'm just sighing. Everything that Marvel does right, they do wrong.
Let's just summarize this year specifically, and we're not. And point of order, we're not going to talk about Blue Beetle, not only because it's out now and maybe find some legs and has a way to recover, although we kind of doubt it, but also because the writer strike is going on, the actor strike is going on, and we have a rule right now that we're not talking about new things while they're new because we're not supporting the studios while they're trying to continue making their business and screwing everyone over. So that's just baseline. Blue Beetle is mentioned, that has come up now and will not be mentioned again during this podcast. Instead, we're going to talk about Shazam, Fury of the Gods, which came off of the back of Shazam that everyone liked and then somehow managed to bomb. Then we had The Flash, Mr. Speedster himself, who somehow, with a bigger budget and still making a bit more money than Shazam, managed to bomb even harder just on a basis of math and stupidity and Ezra Miller. And then, I mean, we can go back and look at some of the other ones. Wonder Woman 1984 was a disaster. Like, I wanted to like that so much. The trailer for it was so good, and it just sucked. Birds of Prey was a fun movie that died because of COVID and because I think people were tired of DC. If we're being honest, because Blue Beetle is currently bombing, and we're not going to mention it again. Like, I think people see the DC logo on a movie, and they're like, I don't want to go see that.
It's like the biggest I feel like their biggest problem is in a lot of their marketing, and maybe it's just because they give away so much in their previews and trailers. Like, I feel like I could see a trailer for a DC movie and know exactly what's going on, and what's the point in paying to see it? And they're just not even. The disappointment of the way this has been handled over the last decade, while Marvel has thrived and DC has cried, is just so disappointing to me, because there's some good stuff here. Batman's good, Superman's good, Wonder Woman's interesting, Aquaman was made to not look like a turd, and they just still continue to bungle it, and I don't understand why.
Well, it's interesting because when you look at the span of their movies, and they haven't had that many. Like, they've had, like, I think 14 works to their name, but at least one of those was a TV show, Peacemaker, which was fun and was a good hit for HBO based on what it was because it's powered by James Gunn. And I guess we could mention Suicide Squad, which was critically reviewed, and the Suicide Squad, which was critically reviewed and then bombed as well, which may have been because it was R-rated or may have just been because of the DC logo on it. It wasn't a bad film. I enjoyed it. It was what it was. You're very rarely going to get to see Harley Quinn stab Starro in the eye with a javelin. Like, that was an interesting place to take that movie. It was great, but again, DC has managed to ruin their own brand because Aquaman made $1 billion, and then they haven't got close to that since.
Yeah, I feel like I don't know what they do or who's in charge of things there. I'm looking at the Wikipedia the last. Just say the last 20 years since Catwoman, all right, in 2004, which in and of itself is terrible. I mean, Constantine.
Constantine, but
I liked it.
It's not a Constantine movie. It's very much an American-inspired film from Constantine. But if you were looking for Hellblazer, you didn't get it.
Yeah. And I mean, I like Keanu. Keanu has resurged for me through the John Wicks, and I loved him around, the Matrix time and everything, so it was fine. And then, then we get Batman Begins, and you're like, oh, here we go. Like, this is actually really good. And we've talked about the Nolan trilogy before, and, we got slight issues with the first movie, but even still, it's a good movie, and we're off to the races. And then if it wasn't Nolan and Bale, it was terrible. No matter what they tried.
I don't necessarily hate Snyder's Man of Steel. I've defended it on the website before. But it's also a movie that is hard to like for a number of reasons. He makes a lot of weird choices. He somehow makes Superman a little fascist and a little, I there are so many creative decisions in there that I don't agree with that it's hard to actually buy it as a Superman movie when Superman is supposed to be a beacon of hope. That's not
Mhm.
what you get from this movie. It's not a bad starting film, but it really shouldn't have been the start of their multiverse, and they just kind of forced it to be the start of their multiverse because Green Lantern tanked. And they're like, oh, that was going to be the start of our multiverse, and that didn't work.
It was they took Man of Steel and they decided like here's where we're gonna set up this whole thing
Mm-hmm.
where Batman's gonna come after Superman because Batman is what real justice is about and Superman can't be trusted and this other thing and like I still have just this vision of Henry Cavill standing there when the bomb goes off and Batman v Superman and everybody's dead in like the Congress area and he's just this shot of just sad.
Yeah,
Like, you know what? That's your film in a nutshell, bro.
he can go as fast as the Flash, and he doesn't think for 1 second, oh, I see an explosion happening. Shove the guy through the wall and drag
Yeah.
the explosion away. No, he's just going to sit there and take it and let
Mhm.
everyone die.
Yeah.
There it's hard to like the Snyder movies when the
Mhm.
Superman that he writes is very Ayn Randian. And that's
Yeah.
not that's the opposite of Superman. An Ayn Randian Batman I might buy. But
Right.
Superman is supposed to be he's supposed to be the ideal of America, and you're not getting that in the Zack Snyder movies. And like
No.
it kind of course corrects with the original Justice League and his Justice League, both of which
Mhm.
are flawed for their own reasons.
Right.
But like, I think it would have been smart for DC to go, "Wow, this is a terrible direction for us to take our films." Instead of like trying to continue shoving all of these down people's throats, maybe just release the Wonder Woman movie we've already made and then reboot and
Yeah.
just stop and let people have a couple days. Because when the Batman came out, as much as I think that movie's a piece of shit because it is just
Mhm.
one dour cry fest from start to finish. Um,
Mhm.
People loved it. It made a bunch of money because it's Batman, yay! And it wasn't connected to all the bullshit they were doing, which helps. Yeah.
In full disclosure, fairness, I effing loved that movie too, and maybe it was because of the disappointment that I felt in every other DC movie up to that point that like I really got something in this movie, the Batman, that just really. I saw it 3 times in theater. I liked it that
Wow.
much.
Yeah, you
I
liked it a
really did.
lot.
They got a bit of my money, and we
You're the
usually
reason why
go
they
with
made so much.
we at work we go like groups of friends and sometimes all the friends can't make it at the same time, so we ended up going in a bunch of shifts and seeing it, and I was like, hell, I'll go again, why not? It was good. And I didn't buy into Robert Pattinson being Batman one bit, and then I saw the movie, I'm like, I I have issues slightly with the brooding,
Oh my God, so
very
broody.
Twilighty, like
So
emo
broody.
Batman that he is. That's not who Bruce Wayne is, whatever.
Uh-huh.
But as a movie as a whole, like the most interesting character in the movie was the city and how much of a piece of shit this place actually is, and how it gets everybody so down. And it really like I enjoyed that movie so much more than anything DC has put out in the last 15 years, even more than Aquaman, which I thought was a pretty good film. I thought Batman was way better.
My issue is instead of making something even remotely fun, and I mean I understand that there's dark stories to tell, and like you want to tell something serious and brooding, and that's fine. Like Frank Miller told fucking The Dark Knight Returns, and that is a dark and brooding comic, and it's been
Mhm.
adopted into a dark and brooding animated feature. It still finds little moments to actually like of fun, of
Mhm.
weirdness, of being able to like have some levity with the situation. And
Mhm.
that never happens in the Batman. It's just like I'm Bruce Wayne. I'm going to sit here in my corner in the dark with my sad Nirvana mix while I wear my The Cure T-shirt, and then I'm going to go punch bad guys and then come back here and brood some more. That's the
Oh,
whole
man.
fucking movie. Okay, and that's fucking it. Okay, and I was just like, after an hour of I'm sitting there going, are you even gonna smile once, dude?
No,
Like, no, you're
I'm not.
not. And the Riddler is gonna be an MRA guy, and it's just an MRA Saw guy, no less. And I'm just like, okay, so this dude has watched way too many Saw movies,
Mhm.
thinks himself as Jigsaw, and has been hanging out on Usenet. Like,
Mhm.
this movie tires me. And then, speaking of being tired, I fucking hate the Joker too.
I
I hate it.
I wanted to like this because all my friends did. I thought it was fine.
Hmm.
I think Joaquin Phoenix does a fine
He does a
job.
fine job with what he's given. Yes.
But like I tried to watch this a couple times, and the first 3 times I watched, I couldn't get 20 minutes in. I was so fucking bored. I'm like, why
Right?
does everybody love this movie?
Right?
And then I sat down, I forced myself through the whole thing. I'm like, okay, yeah, it was a good movie, but I don't know why everybody was falling over themselves with how good it was. Was Joaquin Phoenix good? Absolutely. He won an Oscar. Absolutely, he was good. But was the movie good? The movie was kind of shit.
It was shitty. It was well made shit. But
Yeah.
like if you watch that one after watching the Batman, you'll be sitting there going, man, the Batman was happy and bright in comparison to this dour
Right.
fuckfest. Like
Right.
it's just awful. Oh.
Yeah.
And said to DC is maybe if we just make dour pieces of shit, people will give us a bunch of money, as opposed to the bright and happy pieces of shit they have been making that no one's been showing up for. But
Yeah.
that's also their fault. Shazam was a fun, dumb kids movie with superhero trappings. That's really what it is. And
Yeah.
Shazam 2 is just bad. It
Yeah.
meanders. It has no real plot. It has villains you can't connect to, and it just kind of ends.
They try to bring in, like, like, to your point, like Shazam 2019 was a fun movie. It was
Yes.
cool. It
Yes.
was a neat little concept with the broken family, the kid trying to find his family, and then my family's been here all along. It's a good story. All
Yeah.
the brothers and sisters all get powers together at the end. Like, here we go.
I
And
love that.
then
Yeah.
and then Fury of the Gods. I'm like, yeah, here we go. Shazam was good. This is gonna be good.
No.
No,
it
you bring in
wasn't.
Lucy Liu, you bring in
Helen Mirren.
Helen Mirren, and it was bad.
It was boring. It went nowhere for an hour and a half and then just kind of ends. There were some funny moments in it, yes, but it's not the funny humor of the first movie. And I think my big issue is that, like, so the first movie does hamstring them a little because it sets up the whole Shazamily, that whole family of Shazams. And so the next movie struggles to try and find ways to give all of them something to do, and like a big Justice League crossover. And like it just doesn't understand. Again, you have to spend time with each character separately before you do your crossover film. DC doesn't understand that. They keep
No.
jumping the gun. I would have liked to have seen another Shazam movie on his own. Shazam Jr. is what his character is, but it's not what he is now. But Mary Marvel could have gotten her own film and then bring them all together for something. So, like, when you do a short movie where they can't really all be balanced as equally, you can at least already know that you've got an adventure with each of them so that when they do the crossover, quote unquote, something interesting happens. But they rushed it. And they rushed all of it, and they're just like, we don't really know what to do, so we're just going to throw all these characters in and just hope it sticks.
I mean, you really feel like they were like, oh shit, Birds of Prey, like it was fun, but all right, whatever. Wonder Woman 84, it didn't have the success we thought. All right, we'll throw a rated R movie, Suicide Squad, at him. Okay, that didn't do good either.
Yeah.
Okay, the Batman did good. That got some good traction. Okay, here we go. All right, then let's do Black Adam with The Rock. That can't fail.
Oh, I forgot about that one. That shows you how big a turd that was. That came out this year, and I forgot about it entirely.
Yeah, and I think I saw recently on like Instagram or something that The Rock is like that won't be continuing. Even he's just kind of like walking away from it.
Yeah,
and like you feel bad because like The Rock, say what you will about him, he's a pro wrestler who has built a mogul empire of fitness and doing some pretty decent action movies. And if you're walking away from like one of the two god studios of comic book movies in DC and Marvel, and you're gonna walk away from one of them, then maybe the problem is with the studio and not so much with the actor in that case.
The problem was the movie. Like I don't necessarily think he was bad as Black Adam. I think the movie they built around him was not great. Like, it's watchable. It's very watchable cheese. I've watched it 3 or 4 times now. It's fun in certain respects. I really like Dr. Fate and Hawkman and like the Red Tornado chick that's in there. That's not her name. I can't remember what her name is. And then like the
Cyclone, I think.
Cyclone, thank you. And then the Atom Smasher. Like, they're a fun cast of characters. I liked them bringing the Justice Society into it. I thought that was interesting. In no way, shape, or form ties to anything else around it very well. Like, the Task Force X, like, stuff that you see there is not at all the same as what it was just in Peacemaker right beforehand. Like, there's no consistent continuity whatsoever. Everything just kind of throws shit at the wall for the sake of its own movie and then just moves on. Like, this movie was never going to be great. So them spending $200 million on it to make it bad Shows they should have only spent 100 million on it, and they actually would have turned a profit on it. You know?
It's like literally no one in their executive offices talks to each other or runs
No.
consecutive ideas by each other. They just kind of all. I mean, it's like they got monkeys on typewriters,
Yep.
and they're just not even like cohesively coming up with ideas to tie everything together. And then it's like, oh shit, Marvel dropped another banger, and they haven't in the last couple of years too. Anyway,
Nah, except
but
for Guardians.
yeah, so it's just like I don't. I feel like at some point over the last 20 years, they would have had more than what? I mean,
Four,
half a
five
dozen.
movies. Yeah.
Yeah, it's my childhood was, Michael Keaton is always going to be my Batman. I love the Batman from 1989. It was just a great movie. And then Batman Returns was fun and fine. That's what you got. Like my growing up period for about 8 years, it was Batman was the movie that you went and saw. There was no Marvel at the time. And they just took it and they shit on it for the last 20 plus years. And I don't pay to see DC movies hardly anymore. I'll wait till they come on HBO 3 weeks after they're released in theater because they bombed.
Yep. Well, and that's what everyone's doing, and that's the problem they're in right now. Now, I think if we're being charitable, a couple of years from now there'll be a break after Aquaman. It's going to be 2025 before Superman Legacy comes out. That might be enough time to let some of the stink wear off, especially with the fact that they knew they had to reboot. There are Cavill stands that are upset he's not going to be in the movie, but at the same time, if you show this to the average person who doesn't necessarily care that Cavill's not coming back, they'll actually probably be happy that it looks like we're getting a new continuity because Pattinson was Batman and it wasn't Ben Affleck, and everyone's like, well, we'll turn up for that because it doesn't have a damn cinematic universe built around it. Now they're building a cinematic universe around it, but they're at least taking their time of doing individual movies that don't have to interconnect yet, and that I think is the lesson that Gunn saw from Marvel, and he's like, yeah, no, that's what we're gonna do. So 2 years off. Give time for the superhero genre to cool some, and then you can bring in Superman, who's one of the big three, and you gotta have a Superman, you gotta have a Batman. And my argument is, without Gal Gadot in the role, you gotta have a Wonder Woman, and you just let them roll for a bit and see what happens. Now, I think we're getting some sort of Amazon show or something without Wonder Woman necessarily. That's going to be interesting to see. We've got two different Batman movies coming up because we've got the Batman sequel and then we've got The Brave and the Bold with a different Batman and Damian Wayne. It still feels like overload, and that's my worry.
I'm very much looking forward to the next Batman movie though with Pattinson because he wasn't in the movie and it's a release he had to get after the fact, but the 5 minutes that he has with Joker I am salivating at what this Joker could possibly be with the possibilities. I mean, I don't know if you've seen it. If you haven't, and you guys are listening and you haven't seen it, go to YouTube and Google or YouTube Batman Joker and watch this 5 minute scene. That alone has me wanting to see a movie about these two. It was so good, and that gives me hope. I don't remember his name. He's a well-known actor, but I don't remember who it was. But just the interactions between him, because you can tell that they had a history and they don't tell you what it is, but you can tell they've engaged each other before because Batman goes to him to get ideas, which is very interesting. So do yourself a favor, people out there listening, and you too, Dark Moon, go listen and watch that. That 5 minutes of YouTube right there has me just dying to see a movie with these two in it, and that gives me hope for what this Batman could be in the future.
Maybe it's a Silence of the Lambs. Maybe
that's what it is.
His Hannibal Lecter to Batman's Clarice.
Yep. It gave me a lot of that feel, and you and I'm not going to give too much away because you got to watch it if you haven't seen it. But you could definitely tell there's an uncomfortable uneasiness between the two of them there because Joker plays with him hard.
So we'll see. It's hard to have hope for the superhero genre right now in general. I think just because Marvel is beating it into the ground too. So the Marvel problem is the fact that they were doing so well, Endgame happened, and then the studio was basically went over Kevin Feige's head and said, no, you're going to now crank out a bunch of TV shows along with doing 3 movies a year. And Feige was like, that's going to really stretch us thin. And they're like, you're going to do it. And then he did it. And then it stretched him thin. And it's just well, yeah, this is exactly what they said was going to happen. And now it's kind of tarnished the brand. And the only thing that Marvel has put out that's been really successful in the last couple years was fucking Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that one was good, but fucking Ant-Man was kind of garbage, and most of the
Yeah.
TV shows they've done since WandaVision and Loki were garbage. Like,
Mm-hmm.
both of the studios are sitting there like, we can just keep cranking this out, people will come forever. And it's like, no, you got to give them something good to watch. Like,
It's that
how is this a
whole
hard
like
lesson?
we know better than you. You're gonna pay us just because our name is on it, kind of thing. And
For a
like,
while they would. For a
yeah, they
while
did. And I think once Endgame happened, I mean,
It's a natural
it's in the
stopping point.
name. It's
Yeah.
in the it's Endgame. It's in the name. Like
Yeah.
like you need to give a break there. You need to let this marinate. I have zero attachment to a lot of these new characters in
Yep.
both cinematic universes that I don't
Yep.
give a shit. And I'm not going to go out of my way just because you're trying to throw something new at me and I got to go see a sequel.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Maybe it's just me.
Well, and it's the genre. I mean, there was a little while there where any superhero that came out could make money.
Sure.
And if it had the Marvel logo in front of it, because you knew they were building to something, it was gonna make money. You had to watch every Marvel story. It was gonna make money. DC blew their load because they already had a big villain, quote unquote, in Justice League that they built to in 3 films, and then no one had to care. Like, no one had to care at all. Like, oh, well, we've already seen it, and they're done. Okay, there was their big thing, whatever. But like, Bloodshot, that awful Vin Diesel superhero movie came out. That was trash. It was supposed to launch a cinematic universe. It failed. There's been other ones that have come out, and it's like they failed. And you're like, okay, so maybe it's not so much that people will just pay for anything. It's that you need to give them something to build towards naturally and make them care. And it can't just be any superhero story. And if you don't build to something, no one's going to give a shit. Current Marvel isn't building the squat.
Yeah.
And like, especially with not knowing what's going to be happening with Kang and his actor, and like, it's not even a villain you can really care about yet. Like, it's just no one has the impetus to care.
Right. And I mean, if you can't nowadays, successfully bring a movie out with just the name Superman in it, then you got to look really hard inside at what you're doing wrong, because that's a name that's been around for years. It was a comic. People love it. People grew up with Superman, and now, like, I don't even care. I just don't.
Well, and
because your storytelling is trash.
Yeah, it is. It is trash. I mean, it is interesting to look at what has been successful, and the name does attract a certain amount of people. Like, Superman Legacy, it's probably going to be at least somewhat successful because it's Superman. But you look at, like, on TV, Superman and Lois, that's the one CW show that's still running from the old regime, even after they got bought out by Nexstar, because it's Superman. People still tune in for it at least a little. My Adventures of Superman, that cartoon launched and has been a wild success online because it's Superman. Like, fucking Iron Giant can say Superman, and you brings a fucking tear to your eye. You know the character. Like, so it's just, I don't know. It's amazing how much the pooch has been screwed.
It's the storytelling, it's this.
It is.
It's the lack of cohesiveness in trying to build a world that you just can't pull off. You're seeing the success of what Marvel's done, and you're seeing, like, oh shit, for 12 years we couldn't pull anything together. We're trying to play second fiddle. Every idea they've done better. We're trying to do it second and do it better, and you still screw it up. And you try to reboot. You can't reboot something before you even have it off the ground.
I know.
Come on.
I know. Again, DC would have been smart to do Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, Wonder Woman, watch Justice League tank, and then be like, okay, we need to take a break. Let's not just. I know they had Aquaman in the pipe. Maybe just release Aquaman as well and let it go. But like that, the problem with that also is the fact that yes, Justice League tanked, but then Aquaman made $1 billion. I'm like, oh wait, maybe this is working. No, it's not working. Just let the cast go. Let their contracts lapse. Wait 2 years. Do it again. You made your $1 billion. Take your nest egg and fucking run, guys. Just yeah.
I don't know.
Oh well. Anyway, we'll see if DC can ever pull themselves out of this tailspin, but so far, not so much.
The Batman gives me hope. That's all I'm gonna say. Show me that Joker. I'm begging you.
Pretty sure Barbie in one film has made more money than all the DC superheroes of the last year.
You're not wrong, I think.
I'm not wrong. Not wrong. She's about to pass Mario, so that's something.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
it. You know what? GG's Barbie. Good job.
GG Barbie. You know what I blame? You just can't shake the stink of that 1993 Mario movie. I mean, come on.
I love it. It's dear to my heart, even though it's so bad.
Or maybe the real lesson is if the new Mario movie had actually been really good, it would have made $2 billion.
You know, you're also probably not wrong there.
Not
It made a
really.
lot of money from a
Made a lot
lot
of
of
money.
parents taking
Yeah.
kids to go see something that the parents didn't give a shit about.
Not a shit about it all. I mean, it was fine. It is what it is. That's
It's
how
a
I
fun
feel about
movie.
it's how I feel about the DC movies. They're fine.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
I'm a DC stan. I will watch them. I love them. These
Mhm.
movies have been bad, but I still watch them. I think the only one I haven't bought is Shazam: Fury of the Gods, and that tells you
Mhm.
how bad that fucking movie is. But
Yeah,
like,
and to your point, like I'm shitting on them pretty hard in our little session right here. But
uh,
I've seen Dark, I've seen Watchmen, I've seen Jonah, I've seen all these movies. I'm gonna
yeah,
watch them.
yeah.
You know, I'll talk shit all I want about them, but I'm gonna see
Fucking
them.
Jonah Hex. Oh, I heard you say that. I'm like, oh, I saw it too.
It's on the list, and boy, was I mean.
That's the biggest tanker that I think they have on their list. I think it made like 11 million. It's so bad.
Oh my god!
So
Yeah.
bad.
I don't
Oh
even
my
know.
god.
Yeah, 11 million. Oh my god! And then it was a crisp 81 minutes right there. You
I
couldn't.
know.
It was a good
Flew
movie
by.
length. Come on. Hilarious.
Anyway, this has been Not So Live from Asteroid G. Maybe hoping that one day DC will finally get their shit together. I'm Mike Finkelstein.
And I'm Ghoul Mike for the rest of my life.
Keep up! And we will see you next time.